the handlers, the crafters of the Constitution looked at the peculiarities of Nigeria, and they believed that Nigeria was naturally created into zones. Nigeria is a nation of nations, and with peculiarities, with differences in culture, in civilization, in religion, in the ability to grow. So they know that Nigeria cannot be a nation that will grow evenly, and that was why the Constitution was fashioned to take care of that aspect. And the regions that were created were developing at their own levels, and Nigeria was better. I mean, if you want to be dishonest, you know that Nigeria was better there, was better managed, and was lucky to have had competent hands at the helms of affairs. And so things went on smoothly. I mean, things went on. There was progress. There was noticeable progress, and there was less corruption.
But if you look at the impact of political leaders at independence, to many people they were the one that created the route for military incursion into power through the way they were relating with one another at that period. For instance, the wet situation in the West, created the room for the military to make incursion into the government.
Well, like I said, there is no system without faults. But I want to state emphatically that even the mistakes that they made were not enough for the military to come in. And if at all they came in on the basis of skirmishes, on the basis of conflicts in some part of the country, that was not enough to abolish the federal structure, which guaranteed freedom, even development, and progress for Nigeria. And now the military came in, and of course, unfortunately, the coup that came in was hijacked by reactionaries in the military. Who never, of course, they never planned the coup. They never had a focus. The person who took it over never had any inkling of governance.
Of becoming a leader.
Yes. And unfortunately, he now abrogated the federal constitution, which now paved the way for a centralized system,
a unitary
system that did not assuage the feelings of Nigerians. So it was not enough. It was not enough for the military to come in and abrogate the federal constitution and now put the country into a turmoil that it is today.
But looking at the system of governance we adopted then, there has been so many comparisons, between the parliamentary system of government and the one we are presently operating, the presidential system of government. To many people, if you look at the situation presently, presidential system is dropping too much money, too costly, to operate, and to many observers of event, it has remained a bane of problem which Nigeria is currently facing. If you look at it economically and governance-wise, the two together. From your own point of view, do you think Nigeria would have been better if we had continued with the parliamentary system of government instead of the federal presidential system of government?
Of course. The presidential system, the system of governance is related to the ability of those who are in governance to manage and execute its provisions. The ability or the capability of those who handle governance to manage and implement its provisions. I'm sorry to say that the presidential system of government has not met people who are capable of managing it, and that's why we're having problems. Of course, the cost of governance is just too much, and coupled with the fact that it is not well managed. You can have a costly structure, but if you're able to manage it very well, it can produce positive effects, isn't it? It may not be up to what you want, but you can produce it. But when you have a very costly structure and badly managed, then you have a disaster in your hands.
Nigeria gained independence from the Britain in 1960, October 1st, 1960. And to many of our watchers of the event, the way and manner the colonial government handed over power, reins of Nigeria to certain section of the country then was the foundation of disunity, dishonesty, and misgivings, agitation for self-rule, which we currently experience in the country. What is your take on that?
Yeah, my take on it will be partly historical and partly analytical. I believe that, there's no foreign power. There's no foreign power that will take over a country and hand over power to an interest that will oppose his own interest. I mean, let's give that a thought. The British had a particular interest in Africa and elsewhere. I mean, the British Empire was not established to be
benevolent.
Benevolent or to dispense money to people. No, the British Empire was established to garner resources from all those colonies onto the coffers of the British government, the British Crown. So that one is understandable. There's no imperialist that will govern for other people's interest. It will govern for his own interest. But be that as it may. So that could have justified the way it handed over power to a section, as you claimed. But then when you look at the situation there and the governance there, it was and it is a far, far better cry that we have today. We had people who were patriots, like I said. Look at Ahmadu Bello, for instance. Ahmadu Bello, when he was killed by the coupists, Ahmadu Bello had no house.
Oh, yes.
He had no car. He had no account anywhere. And that was a premier of the entire northern region. He had no car, no house. When he was killed, his body was taken to Raba, a village. Raba, that was where he was born. And it was taken to a mud house, built by his father or his grandfather. He had no house. Can we have such a leader now? Can we? Awolowo ruled Western region from his house. He never used any government. He did not use any government vehicle. He ruled the Western region from Okebola, his house that he built many years. So can we have such leaders again? Obviously, we can't have such leaders. Tafawa Balewa died. He only had a farmhouse in Tafawa Balewa in Bauchi State, a farmhouse. So these were leaders. No matter what the British had as their own personal interest, they established a nation that was ruled by competent leaders, patriots who are committed to the development of the people of Nigeria rather than themselves. So why can't you follow that?
The question is, was Nigeria ripe for independence at the time we got it from the colonial master?
Well,
if you look at the situation in South Africa, where though the apartheid regime created a lot of problems in South Africa, but the economy was better managed by the imperialists than the nationalists. And to some people, the time we got independence was not the time we're supposed to have gotten it.
Well, the time we got independence as a country, as a nation, may not be right. But as components of a nation, it was appropriate. The Western region had moved a motion for independence as far as 1957, which was opposed by the northern delegates. Well, they had their reasons. They didn't have much people to parade as top public servants. People who take over from the British. So they had their reasons, and of course, Ahmadu Bello was right because he had commitment to his people that no, we cannot go at this time. We have to wait. The Western region was ready to go because we had a better exposure to Western education, and we have reached certain strides as at that time. So it was right for us as Western Nigerians to go to be dependent. It was not right for them to be dependent. So as a nation, well, of course, independence at that time might not be appropriate, but as components of a nation, it was right.
Well, we are still on the program, AM Cafe, and I guess it's still a veteran journalist and public affairs commentator, Olusola Ajiboye. We have been looking at Nigeria at independence, which will surely come on October 1st, and the era of colonial period of the country and the global scene. Let's look at it generally. Queen Elizabeth was a queen that oversaw Nigeria during the period preceding and after our independence. Let's look at the incursion of colonial master Britain into a country like Nigeria. If you submit, that the era was an albatross on a nation like Nigeria and other countries of the world where Britain oversaw them. Will I be right?
Well, it was one way or the other, because it wasn't that Nigeria and other African nations did not have their own government. They had their indigenous governments, and of course, well-run governments in their own standard. There could be pockets of failures, here and there, but to say it was an albatross on Nigeria may not be totally right, because there were certain areas of need that African nations, looked up to these colonial masters to help. For instance, now look at the Yoruba civil wars, the longest civil war in history, 100 years. Yorubas fighting themselves, not fighting a foreign army, but fighting themselves
Fratricidal war.
Yeah, and destroying it. Destroying themselves, destroying their heritage, destroying their values. It took the British intervention for that war to come to an end. So will you say the British intervention or colonial intervention was wrong? No, you will not say that. Ditto for other parts of the country. Ditto for so many other African countries. So colonialism had, of course, its negative effects. It also had its positive effects. It launched Africa into an era of Western civilization, education, modern health, care system, infrastructure. They all came in. So if Africa had not underdeveloped itself, I want to just believe that if Africa had not underdeveloped itself, no other foreign minister would have come in. And of course, when you look at the slave trade anyway, you will say the slave trade was triggered off by foreign interest. Of course, but could slave trade have been successful if not for the connivance of Africans? So Africa had issues. We had problems, and if a foreign interest came in to balance those interests, either for their own interests or to stop those interests, either for their own interests, I don't think it can be called an albatross. But then there's no human race without its peculiarities, without its problems, without its challenges. It is because Africans were not organized such a way to have a system or to have a government that will look at the collective interest of the people and develop it. So this is why we're having these problems. But then we cannot dismiss colonial intervention as so bad, as an albatross on us. No.
But looking at the era of the slave trade, the best of Africans, the strongest of Africans were exported to develop other parts of the world. To so many people, if those people peradventure had stayed back in Africa to develop, their domain, villages, hamlets, and communities, African would have been better than these.
Sure. I submit that the slave trade is the worst form of human exploitation of man's inhumanity to man that the world has ever witnessed. Of course, you said the best of Africans were exported to the New World, and these Africans developed what you have today as the Agric gold trade, and the industrial revolution that we have in the new world today, in Europe and America. Africans developed all those marbles that you see, or that you see on radio, or that you see on TV, the great, the Washington D.C. and all those great marbles, all those great structures, were actually built by black slaves.
Yes. And the materials were exported
from here. The gold mine, the gold industry was actually brought from Africa. The first the indigenous miners in America were blacks. Most of those inventions that you see today, that America and Britain parade, were actually the handiworks of black slaves. So it was the greatest setback that any continent could have. For over 3 centuries, more than 15 million Africans were forcibly taken from their homelands and chained in the belly of ships to Americas, to Brazil, to Jamaica, to Trinidad and Tobago, to Washington, to London, to Liverpool,
to Portugal,
to France, to different parts of the world. And while those countries were developing, Africa was regressing. Depopulation, dislocation, poverty, and all manner of setbacks were in Africa, while Europe and America were developing. So it was the greatest setback any race could have. I agree with you.
Let's look at the era of Queen Elizabeth II as the longest serving monarch in the history of Britain. How will you generalize her reign?
Well, her reign was remarkable, but her reign could be a summary of the good and the bad for Africa.
Okay.
The good and the bad for Africa.
Let's look at both. The good and the bad.
Queen Elizabeth, superintendent over the remnants of the British Empire. The British Empire ended. I think it ended today. There's no British Empire anyway. We only have a Commonwealth of Nations. So it was Queen Elizabeth II's responsibility to superintend over the Commonwealth of Nations. And of course, the British Empire might have ended politically, but economically it is still strong. So we have to, the Queen was commended, of course, for ensuring that the economic stranglehold that the British had over our colonies, remain. But at the same time, our era also witnessed the declaration of independence by so many of the colonies. So it was good for those former colonies to be free, so to say, to be free and to be independent. So his era signified the good and the bad for Africa. Of course, the colonies under the British Empire. But again, when you look, I want to look at let's look at the personality of the Queen. I think the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, was a very forceful character. A woman, but she had the cloak of a man. She was able to administer Britain and her colonies in such a way that even when you look at the predecessors, maybe her grandfather had that character, and she actually imbued that character. She was a man in a woman's skin. I just hope that our son will have that kind of character, but I doubt if he has anyway.
Was she able to use her position as the Queen of England to foster unity among the former members of the British Empire, who are all independent today?
I think
all independent.
She did, because the fact that she was able to retain the Commonwealth as it is today, testifies to her strength of character. administrative capacity or sagacity, that he was able to hold that. Of course, the Commonwealth is described as a loose association of former colonies of Britain. But then it is not a loose association, because there's no member of the Commonwealth today that will speak against the Commonwealth. There has been no member since she became queen in 1952 or so, yeah. Up to the time she passed away, there was no member of the Commonwealth that would speak against the queen. So that alone tells a story of sagacity, of competence, and of a character that was formidable. Of course, you also know that, of course, there have been skirmishes, there have been accusations, even in Britain. You know, the Ireland have always been, they want to be dependent, but they have not actually gotten out.
There was not too long a referendum for other countries under Britain, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, possibly maybe.
Well, but it depends on who takes over now. That's why I express some skepticism about Charles, because when you look at Charles, when you look at his life, all through that he now became king, you will not see that character of her mother in him. I don't think she has that character of her mother in him. So I just pray she is able to hold the so-called empire together, or the so-called Commonwealth together, as her mother did. I hope he does. I pray he does.
Well, we are still on the program. AM Cafe. My guest is still Olushola Ajiboye, a veteran journalist and a public affairs commentator. And the program is AM Cafe from the stable of OSBC Television, Ileawi, Okebale, Oshobo. Looking at the modern era, where though former members of the British Empire are independent now, but there's still what we call neo-colonialism, economic stranglehold. Still, tightly holding on to Britain to survive for most of the the countries who gained independence from Britain. How, in your own view, would this country be able, or when would they be able to be truly independent economically?
When or how, they belong to the realm of conjectures. Well, but then the determinant factor will be the leadership, those who take over, those who are there. You see, as long as African leaders or African rulers, let me call them rulers anyway, African rulers continue to grow them, continue to be puppets to foreign interests, so long will the stranglehold continue. Don't forget that neo-colonialism has been described as the worst form of colonialism. In fact, it would have been better now. It would have been better if the colonialists are still there. But they are doing well. They are implementing good policies that people are benefiting from and still ruling, than to have Africans who are not beneficial to their people and still holding on to government. So that is the evil effect of neo-colonialism. Those foreign interests, don't forget that I said that no foreign invader will invade your country for your own interest.
It will be for their own economic interest.
When we say we want to go, we want to be dependent, we are right, we are this, okay, we want to be dependent, okay, don't worry. They ensure that they train people who will continue, not only, in fact, who will be more European than African. And that's the problem we are having today. It's only when we have leaders who will be African in thoughts, who will imbibe the Africanness in them, who will see themselves as Africans, not Europeans. Then that's when what you said can come true. When on how. And of course, when you also look at the citizens' addiction, we are so much addicted to foreign cultures and religion and interest that we see ourselves as not African. We are neither African nor European. We are so much addicted to the language of the white man, so much addicted to the culture of the white man, so much addicted to the diet of the white man, to the extent that we forget that we even have any life.
Any life.
So as long as that continues, can we have independence? We can't. Look at Nigeria now. Nigeria is financing our budget with over 11 trillion naira in deficit. 11 trillion naira, to borrow 11 trillion naira to finance a budget, and you expect something out of it? Nothing. Instead of growing our own economy, instead of domiciling what we think can develop us, we are not looking at that. We are looking at foreign economies. Look at the level of the naira. Look at the rate, the exchange rate of naira to a dollar now. And you think Nigeria can ever develop? No. We just need to think. We think African. We think of our own. We forget foreign. We pandering to foreign interests, pandering to foreign culture, pandering to foreign values, rather than go after what is ours. So until we do that, no way.
We hope we get the political will to do the needful.
We hope so.
In order to get the country.
We hope so. So one thing: the development of a country depends on its leadership.
Yeah.
A country can have, if money grows like trees, like grasses, money grows like grasses from it to the soil, but does not have a good government, it is poverty.
We mismanage.
Yeah. So that is it. We mismanage almost everything that we have. And how can we think of development in that kind of situation? We have oil, we cannot benefit from oil. We have gas, we cannot benefit. We have all manner of electric energy, thermal, hydro, everything. We cannot, we still don't have light. We have all the materials to build durable roads. We don't have roads.
I remember a leader, or a ruler, let me use your word, a ruler who said, the money is there, but what to spend on this ways. Well, on a final note, Olusola Ajiboye, from the experience of Queen Elizabeth II, what do our leaders and rulers need to tap from it?
There's one thing again I want to bring out. The Briton is the most conservative human being on earth. When a Briton develops something of value, of duration, he keeps to it. He doesn't allow it to deteriorate. You can even see the element of conservatism in the way the Queen's funeral has been arranged.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's a Christian country, the Queen, the monarchy did not forget their ancestral values and systems. And that is exactly what is lacking here. We forget everything that is good about us, we forget about it. And we hate things that don't have direct value on us, to us. We hate it. We forget what is valuable. So, the Nigerian leadership or rulership must take a cue from the conservativeness of the British monarchy, of the British. The simplicity. Look at the Queen of England, Elizabeth II. Throughout her lifetime, she will clutch her umbrella. She will carry her bag. No chaperone, no PA, she answers her call. She answers her call herself. There was no air of grandiose or the illusion of grandeur. No air of luxury. Luxury of will I call it ostentation about her, even though her family is perhaps the richest family on earth. The Queen of England is the richest family, has the richest family on planet Earth. Yet, all those things that our leaders cherish, that we run about, acquiring unnecessary wealth and all that, they were not part of the British monarchy. And it is a monarchy. So it is what our rulers at various levels of government should copy. Humility and service, and the ability to be what you are, irrespective of what you are.
Well, I want to appreciate Olusola Ajiboye for finding time to be on the program here in Cafe on OSBC television there. But we hope our leaders, our rulers are watching, and we hope they take necessary steps.
We only hope that maybe the next dispensation will bring on board people who will think Nigerian rather than think other interests.
Well, in the transition period.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We just hope that this transition will help bring on board such people at various levels of government, those who will think not only of themselves, but they think of the generality of the people. Because at the same time, as a human being, what exactly do you want? Your needs are so limited, but your wants are so unlimited. And if a human being will just pander onto his needs, what you need are just limited. But what you want, what we want here, let me be specific. What people want here are mostly what they don't need. So what you need, what every human being needs is so limited.
Why some are having more than enough?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Excesses. Some are seriously lacking.
They're lacking.
Many.
I was at the garage. I was the garage of one rich man. Even here in Osun State, I saw cars, about 15 cars, just rotting away, parked. Cars that he will never even ride.
His entire life.
In his entire life. So, and there are people who don't even have anything to lean upon. So, let us minimize our wants and, of course, follow our needs.
We hope one day we'll get there. Inshallah. On this note, we also say about on today's edition of AM Cafe from OSBC Television. In there I want to once again appreciate Mr. Olusola Ajiboye, a veteran journalist and public affairs commentator, for finding time to be on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Rainy Monday morning here in Oshogo.
Exactly.
Lasso Oyebayo is the executive producer of the program, while Shola Ogunleye remains the producer of the program. On behalf of the entire transmission crew here in the studio, the cameraman, the VTR personnel, my name is Adeyemi Aboderi. AM Cafe will return tomorrow morning. We thank you for being here and good morning.